And welcome to Harry Cole Saves the West, the show American grit meets British backbone. We are still in London for our New Year's shows, and joining me today, Scarlett Maguire of Merlin Strategy and Editor-in-Chief of CityAM, Christian May. Happy New Year to you both. Friends of the show, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not at all. Big year, both in America and in Britain, in terms of midterms, official midterms in the US. The House is up for grabs, some of the Senate's up for grabs. Donald Trump's first big test case since his Lazarus-like return to the White House last year. Donald Trump tells us everything's going swimmingly and the country's economy is A+++++++. The golden age is rolling on. You've got Scott Bessent saying that actually the US economy is on the turn. By the springtime, it's going to start to really be going gangbusters again, and that, in the political strategy of the Republicans, will start to be really felt in people's pockets by the midterms. November, obviously, is a lot further away than May, so the Republicans have a little bit more time. Scarlett, what's your predictions for the midterms? Obviously, they've tried to tinker a little bit with redistricting and trying to sort of stack the scales a little bit. But, there does seem a lot of people in the White House who are very keen to get Donald Trump back onto stop talking about Venezuela, stop talking about Iran and Gaza and Ukraine, and actually focus on affordability, which he sometimes says is a hoax. Is the economy a weak spot for Trump, and are voters pissed off?
It is a weak spot for Trump, and voters are annoyed. And I think this is the problem. So I don't think anyone predicted, or maybe they did. I didn't predict the Trump second term to be quite as dominated with foreign affairs as it has been, especially in
the last
months.
week. Yeah,
and especially with the variety of it as well. It's all over the world and sort of on all fronts. And even though you can say in some ways that you shouldn't be led by public opinion on these issues, that there's something potentially greater at stake for whatever decisions you want to take. You probably can't ignore the political situation at home as well. And I think voters do feel like affordability and the cost of living in America has been neglected. Now, this matters for Donald Trump because I think he almost accidentally took ownership of the affordability issue off Biden and off the Democrats, who voters thought had handled it terribly. It's part of the reason why Trump got in, and especially why Trump, achieved such a victory across those swing states. Because when he did the tariffs and did such sweeping tariffs, even though they had actually not had that much of an effect on voters' cost of living, voters feel like that was a political decision that meant that Trump now has political ownership on the issue. And again, they're not seeing prices come down back to what they would like them to be.
Quick enough.
Exactly. And they're pessimistic. Well, yes, a gas, but in terms of grocery shopping and etc., they're still remaining quite stubbornly high, or at least they're not coming down as fast as they would like. And this matters for Trump. Voters are pessimistic about the future of the economy in America. They don't think the country's on the right track. A lot of this goes back to the issue of affordability, and at the moment, Trump is not able to stay on message on that front. Yeah,
and it's very much not what have you done for me, but what have you done for me recently. Christian May, is Scott Bessent right to be bullish about the US economy?
Well, it looks like it. I think this goes to the point of what Scarlett just said. So, we would absolutely kill for an annualised growth rate.
4% or something.
4.6%. It's going to be it's been 1% basically in this country, which doesn't touch the size. So we would kill for that. But at the same time, Trump has been absolutely gagging for interest rates to be cut. So much so he came close to sacking the governor of the Federal Reserve, chairman of the Federal Reserve. That's right. We have a governor in this country and a chairman of the central bank in the US. Trump was furious with him. Trump can claim that he's got this astronomical GDP growth rate on an annualised basis. Voters don't really think in annualised terms in that sense, do they? I know the cost of living crisis, as it's known in this country, is acute in America. And so to champion reductions in interest rates and annualised growth rates is one thing, but unless it's felt and also seen and becomes less of a worry and a burden. And in this country, bring it back to London for a moment, Prime Minister does not understand the impact of his policies, and I think this is demonstrated by the fact that he talks and talks and talks about the cost of living crisis, says that he gets it, he's aware that everybody's suffering under it, but he's increased taxes and increased borrowing and increased all sorts of indirect costs on businesses and employers to such an extent that people are not stupid and people feel it. So his only solution is to tweak with welfare payments and subsidies. That's his solution, a statist solution.
What he needs is a one big, beautiful bill, tax cutting.
Well, yeah. of course we need tax
for all. Cast your mind back to earlier this year, Christian. Liberation Day, April the 2nd, I think it was, that tariffs, they eventually sort of kicked in after lots of kicking and screaming negotiations in about July, August. We had Orange Wednesday, where the markets went into free fall for about 48 hours in reaction to that. Whisper it quietly, though, as Scarlett sort of touched on there, hasn't actually been that bad.
The impact of tariffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is going to be, the US equivalent of the impact of Brexit. On
everyone's going to argue about it for 10 years' time, and everyone can look at one set of stats, and people can look at
our
others.
economy would have been X if we hadn't done Y 5 years ago, etc. So people can chew over that. Of course, if you look at the stock markets in the US, which I think I'm right in saying that the average US voter is much more engaged in than the average British voter on a retail investment sense. Those stock markets are absolutely buoyant. Now, I appreciate in recent days that's sort of oil companies and defence companies having their bit of turn in the sun, but it's AI stocks and tech stocks that have been driving that. And I think I saw some analysis suggesting that were it not for the absolutely astronomical amount of money being thrown around in public and private markets around AI in the US, the US economy would be an entirely different state.
There's a large chance at the end of this month, at the end of January, that the Supreme Court could actually strike down Trump's tariff abilities, because obviously he didn't go through Congress with them, he did them by executive order, and there's a big argument whether that's legal. Should they strike them down, that's the US economy is going to go even faster and quicker, right?
Well, again, they question the impact of them because, of course, that day that you referred to, where he got out his props and pointed to all these extraordinary rates of tariffs, the immediate market reaction to that was quite dramatic. Of course it was. It was upending decades of consensus.
It has brought in, multi-billion dollars worth of tariffs.
But tariff is just another way of saying tax, and taxes end up ultimately being paid by consumers one way or another. So I don't think you can separate some of the cost of living issues being faced with that wider tariff policy. I don't agree with or approve of tariffs as a tool of economic policy personally. But there are many, many other factors at play at the moment, not least, as I mentioned, that extraordinary AI boom from which Donald Trump is undoubtedly benefiting.
Scarlett, you said this will be a dark night for the Labour Party in the UK, and Reform possibly doing very well. We can talk about the Tories another day. I mean, they're not really on the pitch. In terms of the United States, as a pollster, psephologist, expert extraordinaire, Trump going to hold the House?
No, I think the working assumption at the moment is that Trump won't hold the House.
Ooh.
It looks very difficult to hold. He's only got a tiny majority of a handful of seats, and the White House, the people in the White House normally lose midterms. Normally.
Well, that opens the door, though, to some serious lame duckery, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Although, as you sort of hinted at with your tariffs conversation, a lot of what Trump has done, he's not even bothered to go through Congress to do. So there's actually a sort of debate about how much it would necessarily...
Well, except for the fact that you're going to turn over Congress and all its committees, investigations and oversight to people that want to put him in prison and impeach him.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely creates a headache for him. And also, I think it actually would present both sides with slight problems. It puts Republicans on the back foot. I think it would cause a lot of internal problems there as well, and questions about how they go and who they go for in 2028 and the sort of strategy they should pursue. But we've also seen that actually, paradoxically, success in the midterms can damage the Democrats too. So the 2018 Democrats had a great midterms, and I think this gave them entirely the wrong idea over the next few years about the sort of mandate they could get and that the American public wanted from a political party and from the Democrats in particular. And I think they misread, and the danger of any party can misread electoral success when there's a lot of other things at play. So, for example, I think one of the reasons at the moment why the working assumption is that not the Senate, 'cause that still looks very hard for the Democrats to get, but for the House, that the Republicans may lose it, although it's a very small playing field. So there's a way that Republicans just play defensive and manage to fight off Democrats, but I think that's looking unlikely at the moment. But, argument to say that the Democrats win, but it teaches them all the wrong things and all the wrong things to double down on, and the wrong parts of the party to double down on going for the next part, well, potentially.
Christian, while you're here, going to make you a prediction. Are the Brits going to, and Americans, two questions here, are Brits going to feel better off by the end of this year? And Americans going to feel better off by the end of this year?
I believe Americans probably will, because they just have that dynamism in their economy that we lack. And no, Brits won't feel better off at the end of this year because they won't be better off at the end of this year. They'll be worse off.
Great. Well, that's depressing. Thanks.
On which note?